It's time once again for another episode of the Franchise Business Radio Show. Broadcasting live from the Pro Business Channel studios in Atlanta. And now here's your host, Pam-currie.
Welcome to the Franchise Business Radio Show. Really excited. We've got some incredible guests today. I am Pamela Currie, the host of Franchise Business Radio, as well as the founder of Franchise Intellect. Franchise Intellect is a consulting firm that provides guidance to individuals who are considering franchise ownership, as well as helping franchisors who are looking to further build their brand and have system development. But I'm really excited today because we have some great guests on the show. I would like to go ahead and go around the studio. We've got a lot of electricity happening here in the studio. And want to introduce you to our I'm going to go ahead and go with our second interview. I'd like to introduce you to Scott first, and then we'll move over to Christina. Scott, welcome to Franchise Business Radio. So happy to have you on the show.
Thank you. We're glad to be here.
Would you do me a favor? Please just give me a couple sentences about your background and, what Screenmobile is all about.
Sure. I've been a franchise owner with Screenmobile for 5 years now. Background is construction, primarily commercial, and was just kind of looking for a change. And after a lot of research, looking at a lot of different franchises, Screenmobile seemed to be a good fit.
Well, good. We're really looking forward to learning a little bit more about that. And I'm going to go ahead and move over to our first guest, Christina. Welcome to the Franchise Business Radio Show.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We're going to go ahead and kick off with Christina. But before we do that, I'm going to ask Rich, our producer, tell us a little bit about Christina.
Absolutely, Pam, my pleasure. Christina Simms is co-owner and general manager of School of Rock Johns Creek. School of Rock is a performance-based music school that goes beyond the boundaries of ordinary lessons. Her students learn their instrument in a dynamic environment with other, and you actually produce shows as well, right?
That's correct.
In the studio. So it's hands-on and... Not
in the studio, in actual venues.
Oh,
rock
okay.
venues, yeah. We get out of the studio, we get them on stage.
Making it happen. Yeah, we need to get out of the studio. Yeah. We'll be your opening act, right? Franchise Business Radio proudly presents...
All about it.
All right, so, and School of Rock, as you mentioned, not only teaches music, but other skills that students can apply in many walks of life and really carries them throughout their life.
Exactly.
In many cases, right? Christina holds an MBA from the University of Colorado, Denver, a BA in Electronics and Communications from...
Economics.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah. What did I say?
Electronics.
Electronics.
Actually, it might have been a little more helpful.
Hey, they both begin with an
I was
E.
just thinking we could use one if you were before the show, yeah.
Same number of syllables.
I dabble a little in electronics.
Well, I'm impressed. Multi-talented.
All right, ladies. Meanwhile, so economics, I apologize. Communications from
Bellarmine
University. Where's that?
Louisville, Kentucky.
Okay. Also a background in professional services, marketing, and business development. Both you and your co-owner husband, Ben, have been longtime supporters of the performing arts and are golf enthusiasts.
Yes.
All right. Well, I'm going to hear a little bit more about that, but you're also the proud mama of two little rockers.
Yes. 4 and a 5-year-old.
Oh, you have your hands full.
Oh, yes.
What are their names? What are their favorite instruments, go-tos?
Jack and Charlie. Jack's the oldest at 5, and Charlie's 4. Jack is more inclined towards drums right now. He's actually in my rookies program. And Charlie, he just enjoys music, but he hasn't really, kind of gravitated towards any instrument yet.
So a busy and noisy household. And so, Pam, you're good to go.
Absolutely. Welcome, Christina. And definitely want to learn about your local franchisee, but I cannot resist bringing this up because the timing of having you on the show and with the publication that just came out with Franchise Times, we have the rock and roll CEO, Zanya Holman. Am I saying that properly?
I believe it's Jana.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Well, she is on the cover of Franchise Times, and it was just sort of ironic. January 2016, and here you are on the show.
I know.
And perfect timing. I guess that kind of leads us into, please give us a little bit of history, if you wouldn't mind, about School of Rock.
School of Rock? School of Rock was formed in 1998 by a gentleman named Paul Green. And I believe it's just out of Philadelphia. If my geography is wrong, I apologize. It could be Philadelphia or Pittsburgh. I can't remember. Somewhere in Pennsylvania. And he believed that what philosophy of School of Rock is, it's the best way for kids to learn is to actually play with others. And he started School of Rock back in 1998. The program just grew. I don't exactly know how the current investors found it, but it became School of Rock in 2006. And so now in 2016, goodness gracious, how time has flown.
Oh, yes.
There's over 170 schools in 9 countries.
Wow, that is incredible. That's some significant growth.
Yes.
And out of curiosity, how many locations are here in Atlanta, Georgia?
There are 3 currently.
3 currently. And how long have you been a franchisee?
Approximately 2 years. My studio's been open for 16, 17 months.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
And by the way, Happy New Year. I was remiss and didn't even say Happy New Year. Could we talk about, kind of educate us a little bit on your services and exactly what it is that you're offering?
Certainly. We go beyond the traditional lesson. And so when you come to School of Rock, depending on what age you are, it depends on what program you're in. So we have programs for 6 and 7-year-olds. We call it rookies. And at that age, children are generally not physically equipped to learn an instrument or mentally able to sit through a lesson. So our Rookies program is essentially an hour-long class where the kids get introduced to the instruments that we teach, and they also grow appreciation for music in a group dynamic. The next step is Rock 101, which is a 45-minute lesson and an hour-and-a-half rehearsal each week. And these kids start learning their songs, they start learning their instrument, and they start playing together. And so that dynamic begins really in Rock 101. And then the next step is performance. And these kids, it's a commitment. These kids are in a 45-minute lesson and a 3-hour rehearsal each week. And at the end of a season, they put on a show.
Wow.
And they learn faster, they're more engaged. We create this really cool culture in my studio where I have kids that just come to hang out. And they just want to be with other like-minded kids. And it's just a lot of fun.
Oh, I can only imagine.
We also teach adults, too.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
Now we're talking.
Yeah, a lot of people forget that we're not just a music school for kids, and I'm in my adult program, and that's a lesson and a rehearsal component as well. And we go out and we find gigs and we get on stage as well.
So what instruments?
Guitar, bass, keys, vocals, and drums. Basically your core elements of a rock band.
Well, I know I don't belong in the vocal category. I've been told that by many friends.
It's funny. You don't have to be a Mariah Carey to sing. If you have somewhat of an ear, maybe somewhat of a pitch, you could do backing vocals. You can emphasize maybe the chorus. You don't have to be that lead singer.
And are there, just out of curiosity, is it sort of the old school of rock or is it current? I mean, with the generations up and coming, how do you select the music?
It depends. So we select the music based on what our kids need to learn. And so we evaluate our kids towards the end of each season, and that helps us pick the shows for the following season. Because, maybe little Johnny needs to work on a riff here and there, and so this particular show will help him grow that set of skills that he needs to learn. So, like Harvard doesn't let the students pick the textbooks, we don't let our students pick the shows. Now, we do, accept ideas here and there, and sometimes they're great ones.
Sure.
But we really make sure that the shows we pick will help our students grow.
Wow. You know what's so interesting to me is it really touches on so many development areas for someone who's young. Obviously, they're learning music, but a creative outlet.
Yes.
A team player. I'm hearing team playing in there. The comfort of getting in front of an audience. Am I missing anything?
Oh, we pull them out of their comfort zones. You're talking about comfort, but actually the biggest challenge we have with some of our kids sometimes, and adults, oh my goodness, our adults too.
We're probably the worst.
I'm not going to point fingers. But getting them out of their comfort zone, saying, you can do this. It doesn't have to be perfect. The fact that you are on stage is the first step that you're actually putting yourself out there. And imagine if you take that throughout your life. You just take the risk, going a little bit one step further and developing yourself, that way.
Absolutely.
And taking your gifts and putting them out there in the world. And that's what we encourage our kids to do. We don't let them cower in the corner. We, in a good way, we push them. we say, you know what? I don't know what the word can't means. If you tell me I can't do it, I'll look at you and go, I don't know what that word means.
Good for you.
But, it's either you don't want to do it or you're scared to do it. Great. Admit that this frightens the world out of me. Help me get there. And that's what all of myself, my instructors were just encouraging people to just, be more confident out there.
Absolutely.
And not just be scared and sit back and not really grow as humans.
Right. And what another great message, life message, that, you can overcome any challenges, fears, obstacles. Go for it, right?
Yeah, and owning this business in itself. I mean, this was something my husband and I have never owned a business, and talk about, and Scott might be able to sort of resonate with me as well. Owning a business sometimes is a risk, and it's scary, and you're putting yourself out there, and you don't know where it's going to go, but gosh, you just grow.
You know what? You're bringing up such a great point. And, the Franchise Business Radio Show, the reason why I decided to start hosting it and put myself out there is really as a platform to bring franchise professionals and resources together to be able to connect, educate, and collaborate, because there is so much to learn from each other. And if you don't mind, I would like to hear your story. What made you pick School of Rock? How'd you even get down this path of considering becoming a franchisee?
Well, my husband and I have for years, and there's actually some funny aspects to it, been considering opening a business. And we went from everything from a butcher shop, because we missed that old school, go into a specific place and order, your meats, your deli items from that guy or gal who just knows everything. And I feel, we both feel that that's kind of going to the wayside with the grocery store, to owning a golf range, who knows? And then we came across this idea in Inc. magazine, and we went through their process, and we did our due diligence and found that this business kind of spoke to us in so many ways, and kind of like what Scott said as well. It just seemed to fit. And so that's where it kind of goes from. You just trust your gut. And another thing too, we've always wanted to own a business, and we found that a franchise gives you that framework to get started, and so it kind of helped us get there without, just starting from the ground zero with, an idea and growing it. And who's to say we won't do that someday? But this was a good way to get our feet wet in an entrepreneurial aspect.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the greatest value points of franchising, right? It's like you're not learning it all by yourself on your own solo.
Exactly.
You're able to step into a system and be given the system to get started and up and running.
Yes.
I'm obviously, I love to hear people's stories and what really took them down that path. And I've just got to tease you a little bit. Did you play an instrument as a kid?
I am the poster child for it not working. So no, not as a kid. Not as a kid. I picked up voice, piano, and violin in college. And then I tried piano when I graduated college as an adult, and I got pregnant with my first son, and then I just kind of dropped out.
Understand.
And it's funny, I actually asked my piano teacher, is there some way that I can take, and this is really weird because I wasn't even thinking School of Rock at the time, is there some way I can take what we're learning here, and can I perform with other people so I have that end goal? Isn't that bizarre?
Yes,
But I was asking my piano teacher for this, and I ended up opening a school that does just that. So I kind of put out there in the universe.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You sure did. It kind of came full circle, right? And what's kind of funny to me, I actually took piano lessons. I think I was in second grade. Still remember my piano teacher's name, Mrs. Schindler, elderly lady that was up the street. Not that exciting of an environment when you're learning as a kid. And I regret to this day not sticking with it. And what would have helped me stick with it is if I had an environment like you're creating for this younger generation that's looking to learn about music. It makes total sense to me.
Yeah.
Really like it. So let me kind of go to the business side of things. Sure. I can relate to you as a woman in the business world. Talk to me a little bit about that.
I am in respect. I mean, we could sit here and Scott wouldn't be able to talk at all today.
Well, we do have the gift for gab.
Yeah, I do need to work on that because I have the tendency to just talk forever and ever. So, can you just give me a little bit of parameters here?
Yeah, well, I was just wondering. I noticed here that you mentioned women in business, and I wasn't sure if you were referring to your personal experience of being in School of Rock or your background in business. I didn't know if you had something you wanted to share about what does it mean to be a woman in a business. If not, that's okay.
Well, I think considering today, I think in your Fortune 500 companies, and there still is the challenge of seeing women above a certain level in business, and I don't know what it is that I think we all kind of know what it is. It's I think corporations, businesses, I don't know if it's creating an environment where women can thrive or if it's women need to figure out how to thrive in the current environment. So I'm a woman. I own a business. I'm a mom. The business that I have actually caters to kids and adults, and I also think it's as a person who. And a woman and a parent and an adult who I just trying to get people to think about doing one thing for themselves. I mean, because as a woman, as a parent, sometimes we forget that we still need to cultivate ourselves and that we're not 100% dedicated to our kids, our spouse, that we exist as well. And in order to serve them the best way we can, is to also take some time out for yourself. Is it picking up an instrument and going to rehearsal on a Thursday night and just doing something fulfilling where when you come home, your kids missed you, but they're like, you know what? Mommy's at School of Rock and mommy's doing her job, and they know that, and that's a part of mommy. And I think no matter what you do, if it's a sewing class, if it's a book club, you're taking that time out for yourself. And developing yourself, because I think a lot of times we just get lost as women, as mothers, and I don't know if you're a mother or not, but we forget ourselves too. And then when the kids leave, then we're just like, okay, now what do we do?
Yeah, who am I now, right?
Exactly. Let's not lose sight of that.
I know, really great points. And you know what is exciting about the franchise industry is we are starting to see more and more women become franchise business owners. So I absolutely love to see the growth happening in that area.
It offers flexibility. I will say this, and it offers flexibility. If my kids have a dentist appointment in the morning, I can go and do that. I don't have to worry about somebody expecting me at the office at 8:00 in the morning. So that is a bonus, and I think that may be one of the reasons why you're seeing more and more women in the franchise industry, because there is that flexibility.
Very good point.
In ownership.
Very good point. Well, I was just so excited to see that you were going to be on the show today, and thank you very much. School of Rock, Christina. Christina, share with our listeners, how would they go about getting in touch with you? What's your website, your handle, all of those good things?
Sure. Boy, we're all over social media. So our website is johnscreek.schoolofrock.com. Our email address is johnscreek@schoolofrock.com, and that's School of Rock, SCHOOLOFROCK.com. We're on Facebook. Facebook is School of Rock Johns Creek. Instagram is School of Rock Johns Creek. Our Twitter handle is SORJC. And we're on Google Plus, but I can't remember what that is exactly. So yeah, we're all over the place.
Well, I love it, absolutely, and as you should be. That's a great business, and it's something that we want to get the word out about.
Thank you. It's awesome.
Thank you for being a guest.
Thank you.
All righty, we've got another incredible guest, and we're stepping out of the music world, and we're not going to electronics, by the way, or sort of, kind of, as Scott, you tell us. But before we hear a little bit more about Scott and his business, tell us a little bit about Scott.
Absolutely. Rich-Casanova, producer, engineer. Want to remind our listeners you're listening to Franchise Business Radio with your host, pam-currie. And Scott, help me with your last name before I...
It's Raridon.
Raridon.
Yes.
Okay.
Because he's rare.
Are you sure you're sticking with that? Is that
yeah, I'm going to go with that.
You're going to go with that?
Sometimes I struggle with that. But.
Right. All right. Scott Raridon is the owner of Screenmobile of North Atlanta. I was going to say North America.
Atlanta.
We just upped your franchise responsibilities. Yeah. All right. Mobile screening franchise that repairs, manufactures, and installs screens at all the customers' homes. Prior to Screenmobile, Scott owned his own construction company for 23 years. So welcome to Franchise Business Radio.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Pleasure to be here.
Welcome, Scott. Well, you know what? Kick us off here with Screenmobile. Who are you and what do you do?
We anything to do with screens, from screen doors to window screens to screen rooms, retractable screens, motorized screens, anything to do with screens.
Wow. And what, I mean, we were talking about this a little bit before the show got kicked off. Would you mind giving us a little bit of history about Screenmobile?
Sure.
Thank you.
Screenmobile was actually started in Southern California in 1982 by the current founders and franchisors, Monty and Scott Walker. They saw a need for people being able to have somebody come to their home rather than try and load things into their cars, whether it be screen doors, and just not having an outlet in which to take their items that they need repaired.
And I always like to hear everyone's story. What led you down this path?
You know, that's the interesting part. I was really focused on opening a sub shop and had gone through their day of discovery. And the more I got into that, not having any background really per se in the food industry, and looking to kind of get away from that 7 days a week work environment, I kind of stumbled upon Screenmobile.
Kind of comes back to that flexibility.
Absolutely.
I mean, when you took a look at the concept, it obviously is a unique business opportunity. What did you see that attracted you to it? Flexibility that's one thing I heard. What else?
The ability to set our own hours. Screenmobiles, when they founded it, was kind of based on really more about the family than the business, in the sense that, you know, if you had to take your son or daughter to a practice, whether it be School of Rock, you know, or sports, that, you know, you had that flexibility. You know, our typical work week is Monday through Friday. During our busy season, we do work Saturdays.
Sure.
But, you know, we're able to be home in the evening with our families, and, you know, they do a great job promoting that balance of work and family.
So, obviously, you know, in the selection of Screenmobile, you decided that you needed the flexibility, it fit into your personal family lifestyle. So those were key deciding factors. What about your background in construction? Did that have anything with your decision-making process?
It did, from the standpoint that, you know, I kind of felt this would be a good fit. You know, I think as we get older, we're less inclined to take huge chances and go way outside the box of what our skill set or expertise is. And it just really seemed like a good fit. And I really saw a need for that, especially in the Atlanta market.
Absolutely. You know, when I work with individuals who are considering business ownership, you know, I said there are a lot of different things we need to take a look at. Obviously, your investment level, you know, what is your investment budget? Does it fit your lifestyle, you know, personally? And is it something that you have confidence in based upon your skills and your talents in running the business?
Absolutely.
All of those make a lot of sense to me. Out of curiosity, talk to us a little bit about the day-to-day operations. How do you go about finding employees and those types of things?
You know, I'm blessed that I have my son work with me. You know, I have 4 sons, so I already had a workforce in place.
Yes, you did.
Although, you know, my oldest, he's in Colorado. He's in the military, and got one in college and one in high school. So, you know, Nick was working a retail type job and was kind of suffering from burnout in that, and so having him come along has really been a godsend.
Absolutely. I mean, if if you didn't have your already built-in labor force here,
Right.
which you already do you think that finding people for this kind of business would be difficult for your average franchisee that doesn't have 4 sons that
Right.
you can?
It has been, and we do have a couple other employees. It has been a bit of a challenge.
Okay.
In trying to find somebody that, most people's reaction is, you can make a living making screens. And so, trying to find somebody that actually has some experience in that. But, we offer, training and, kind of the baby steps and, having them progress to their confidence level and become, better equipped at what we do day to day.
So you said making screens, and I might be honing in. Are you actually just doing the installation, or is there a lot of customization that goes along with it?
Actually, we fabricate everything.
Wow.
Because of us being mobile, we have a specially designed trailer that has its own power source, its saw, all the tools that we need to actually do the job right there on site.
Wow. So talk to me a little bit about that.
Sure.
I mean, that sounds like a very unique differentiator to me.
It is. While Screenmobile wasn't obviously the first to offer, people's replacement screens or screen doors, window screens, but we are really the only one out there that can come to you.
Okay.
A lot of times a customer can call, give us a brief description, possibly send us some pictures of what it is that they need. A lot of items we can actually quote over the phone, set up an appointment, and just come out and take care of it right there on site for them.
Turnkey.
Absolutely.
Like it a lot. So what's the best part about owning your own franchise?
Kind of to echo what Christina said, it's having that network of other people, those years of experience, the branding, the that whole network of, basically equates to hundreds of years of experience, and that, have a sounding board.
Absolutely. The famous quote, being in business for yourself but not by yourself, it goes very far. And I always like to share with people when they are curious about franchising or entrepreneurship, and they see the amount of hours that you still have to put in because it still is a lot of work, but you just have flexibility often.
Correct.
With when you put those hours in.
Yes.
And that's one of the powerful. And not only that, but do you find that working for yourself, when you're putting in those hours, it doesn't seem like it's work like it would maybe if you were working for the man versus working for yourself?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Every day is a different day.
Mm-hmm.
I look forward to getting up in the morning, going to work. Sometimes, my employees, especially Nick, say, can we go home now? We've been at work 14 hours. And, so sometimes I need that sounding board or balance and, kind of put things in perspective. But, yes, it's, absolutely. It's one of those things where, you kind of really, the more you put into it, the more you get out of it.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. So am I accurate that you are not a brick and mortar concept? You do not have a retail storefront. Is that true or not true?
That's the basic premise.
Okay.
When we initially started, I was doing it out of my garage, and we quickly outgrew that. So we actually do have a actual location.
Okay.
Well, we don't get a lot of walk-ins. We do have customers from time to time
Sure.
that want to drop something off. And because of our growth, it became really no longer feasible to do it out of our house.
And how long have you been in business for?
5 years.
5 years.
Yeah.
Congratulations. That's great news. So, I'm just looking at something here. We talk about entrepreneurs overlooking simple concepts. Very often, and both of you alluded to this, which is always interesting to me, and that is a food-related concept. That's typically, as a consumer, someone who's considering franchising, they automatically think of food.
Correct.
What we know. Probably the most complex business model that you could possibly get into, especially if you do not have any background in it, right? Cross comparison, simplicity and business models. That sub shop, Screenmobile, was that one of the deciding factors for you, is the simplicity of the model?
It was, and I think a little bit, even though I previously owned my own business prior to Screenmobile, the delegating authority. I knew that if I took a sub shop, it was not something that I could just kind of ease into and gradually grow. You're kind of just thrown out there and, immediately have to hire employees. And once I started to kind of digest that, I realized, maybe this is not a good fit for me. And like you had said about not really having any experience in that field, I think I fell more in love with the sandwich than I did with the business.
I'm a great consumer of food. Absolutely.
Yep.
And I want to make sure, I know I've got I don't know what kind of accent I have. I get teased about it quite often. I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio, but I've lived all over the country at different points in life. And I keep saying Screenmobile, but it's Screenmobile, according to your accent. Okay, I just want to make sure it's Screenmobile.
Correct. Well, I'm originally a Southern California transplant.
Oh, I understand.
That's kind of how we've always taught that it's said, but, hey, we'll take either way.
Great service. And and before you hand out your contact information to our listeners, just curious, seasonality?
Somewhat. February tends to be our slow month.
Okay.
Fortunately, Atlanta's blessed with pretty good weather
Sure.
compared to a lot of parts of the country. So we have typically stay busy right through Christmas, and, we'll get a little bit of dip early in January, but then, we kind of start ramping up for spring.
5 years. Repeat business?
Quite a bit.
Quite a bit. Okay.
Yeah, repeat and referrals. But we still get people all the time because we are actually the only Screenmobile franchise in the Atlanta market, actually in all of Georgia.
That's great.
So, we would love to see some other people gain some interest in.
And that makes sense, because you're headquartered
Is in Southern California.
right where you're. That may okay. So
Yes.
there's a little connection there too, right? Talk about coming full circle.
Yeah, it's funny how that works out. And it sounds like Christina, kind of the same thing happened with her as well.
Right. So please tell our listeners, how would they go about getting in touch with you?
You can find us on the web at www.screenmobile.com /North Atlanta. You can call us at 770-345-1373.
What's that number again?
770-345-1373.
Great. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank
And
you.
one of the things I absolutely love about being the host of Franchise Business Radio is, as exposed as I get as a franchise consultant to the many different businesses that are out there, this show allows me to be further educated and learn about all the new different concepts that are coming out. Both School of Rock, Screenmobile,
Or mobile.
or mobile.
Mobile.
Unique concepts and very exciting. And that food related concepts, wonderful, but really want to get people thinking that there's so much more out there than just our sub shops, right?
Absolutely.
Before we kind of start wrapping up, any advice you would give to anyone that is considering franchise ownership? And Scott, I'll start with you, and then Christina, I'd like to move over to you.
I think it's a great way to go, especially if you're a little reluctant to go out there and start something from the ground up. I'm amazed how much I've learned with Screenmobile, and many of the franchisees don't come from construction backgrounds.
Okay.
The
Makes sense.
gentleman that's in Charlotte, North Carolina, came from a banking background, so that couldn't be much further removed from doing physical outdoor work. So really, it's a good fit. There's actually a location in Southern California that is two sisters that have a Screenmobile franchise.
So yeah.
So it's not just something that only men can do. As far as having to have, that, additional strength, women are absolutely capable of doing what we do.
Makes great sense.
Strongly encourage them to look into it.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing, because
Sure.
I think it's always good to hear someone else's story. Christina, what advice would you give to anyone considering franchise ownership?
Make sure you have enough capital.
Yes, funding. Very
Make
important.
sure you have funding and then some. So another thing too, it's the hardest job you'll ever do. It's the hardest work I've ever done. But like Scott said, it's rewarding work as well. Network within your community, depending on what the business is, and enjoy the process. So those are my advice.
Great tips. Well, thanks to both of you. I'm sure all of our listeners will really appreciate that and take those tips to heart. Rich.
All right. Once again, you're listening to Franchise Business Radio with your host, Pam-Currie. And so, Pam, as we kind of wind down this episode, let's chat a minute about franchise intellect and the hat that you wear there for those folks that have been tuning in, listening to this live and or a podcast as well, listening to subject matter experts that are kind of operating their business under the franchise umbrella. So what's your role in terms of franchise as a consultant and trainer? Talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, yes, and actually that's why I was really curious to get the input from Scott and Christina around the advice that they would give to anyone who is considering franchise ownership, because what I specifically do is I do help individuals who are considering franchise ownership. I am a business matchmaker. So anyone that is trying to identify, is this a path I want to go down? Do I want to own a franchise? I get in there and understand, what is your investment budget? Where are your talents and skill sets? Does it align with that business model? Financially, is it going to work for you? But also, does it work for you on a lifestyle level? Does it work for you on a personal level? And really identifying key criteria that may be really important in a business based upon what the individual is looking for. So I guess sort of a custom approach, right? It's not a cookie. Every business is not a cookie cutter business for every single individual. So really getting in there, doing that analysis, understanding what's important as far as business criteria goes, and then finding the right concept for them to consider.
Yeah, and it's beyond just being able to do an internet search or look through a directory, because there's really just almost unlimited options, right?
Yeah,
and so many that you don't even realize. So you're kind of that broker or the consultant.
That's correct.
And folks can sit down with you, and there's no fee involved on that end, right?
That's right. And you actually brought up a couple really good points there. One is that there are, oh my goodness, over 3,000 concepts, over 75 different industry categories out there. And I actually heard the other day on another radio show that close to 200 new franchise concepts are coming out a year. So when you start thinking about the growth and what's taking place in the franchise world, that can be really overwhelming to the average individual. So the ability to work with a consultant like myself to help be educated, to expose you to concepts that you might not think about, really can go far. And just to help you navigate that process, because franchising is highly regulated. There are specific due diligence steps that you want to do, and to have someone coach you through that process is very powerful. So, yes.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of moving parts from just the legal perspective, but the benefit for someone considering a franchise is it is that kind of turnkey where a lot of that's taken off your plate, and you can really kind of do what you enjoy doing, right? But what your role you're great at is helping those folks identify, again, kind of what's their preferences. Do they want to work from home? How much investment they want to put into it? Do they want to travel? What type of widget do they want to be involved in, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
There's just so much to consider. And so you'll meet with them, and then and so as kind of a broker, so the franchisor then pays your finder's fee in essence, right?
Yeah, and you're bringing up another really great point. Our service is to consult to individuals.
Right.
complimentary.
Yeah.
It's free, and the reason it's a perfect business model for all involved. And the reason is someone who's considering franchise ownership, they really appreciate having someone guide them through that process. And so to have a consultant, but know that there's no cost associated with it. For them, it's free for them. So it works for the individual looking for franchise ownership. And then you also have the franchisor. The franchisor has a need there. They need help recruiting qualified franchisees. So we are that recruiting arm for the franchisor. And then it works for us because we are compensated by the franchisor for being that recruiting arm. So really it's a perfect business model that works for all parties involved. And
I mean, a true win-win because the franchisor, you provide that vetting process, and when you kind of make that introduction, for the most part, you've eliminated a lot of the work on both ends, right? So this person, now they're excited about this opportunity they may not have been aware of.
Absolutely.
And then second, they kind of have most of their ducks in the row, or they understand what they're getting into in terms of financing, like Christina mentioned, capital, right? And what's a good fit. And then, so it definitely is absolute win-win. Matter of fact, you had a guest in here a while back that represented, I think, 6 different brands. And after the show, he was saying, this is, we want to have a conversation, right? Because, I mean, it's just, it is a great business model that you operate under as well.
Yeah, and to your point there are franchise groups that will represent different brands that are out there. Focus Brands is,
they've been in the show.
They're here in Atlanta, and they have multiple concepts that they represent, primarily food-related. Great franchise group. But yes, there are a lot of, and not only that, another thing that I'm able to do, and just kind of seeing the franchise business model from all different perspectives on the franchisee level, franchisor level, as a system developer, a trainer of other franchise consultants, it really puts me in a perfect position to be able to consult and work with franchisors, emerging franchise brands that are trying to figure out how can I put some infrastructure in place, what can I do to further develop my system, what kind of training programs can I put in place. So that's a whole nother side of my franchise consulting business.
Great. So when we're ready to franchise PBC, Pro Business Channel, you're going to be the first phone call we're going to make.
Absolutely. I look forward to that day.
All right. So, and as we asked our guest, let our listeners know and your listeners know what's the best way to reach out to you.
Yes, Pamela Currie, phone number 847-970-8765. Again, that's 847-970-8765. And website, www.franintellect.com. It's Fran, F-R-A-N, intellect, INTELLECT.com.
All right. So we'll see you next time on another episode of Franchise Business Radio.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
And thanks to all of our guests.
Thank you again for joining Pam-Currie and her guests on the Pro Business Channel. Use the social media links here to share today's show and stay tuned for the next episode of the Franchise Business Radio Show.